Evan Yearwood, welcome to the My Tribe podcast. Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure, man. It's
Yeah,
nice seeing you again. How have you been so far?
I've been good. I've been good. I was actually just giggling about how we were blessed to meet and the interaction that took place. So I guess I'll go into it a little bit of
Yeah,
how we
definitely.
know each other. So I think I was in the city a couple weeks ago, and I was going from downtown to uptown or something like that, and I called an Uber, and it was me and my two boys, and I think it was Johnny and Carl. Yeah, we're in the cab. Shout out Johnny and Carl. And I just happened to see that you were closing out some apps, and I seen you closed out Chat GPT. And I'm like, all right. And I'm trying to put my boys on to the shit that I get into and do and so on and so forth. So, and like, yo, Evan, what are you doing? What are you using Chat GPT for? And I guess I'll let you take a little bit of it from there.
Right. So it's so interesting that you caught that. Definitely, you got to give yourself credit because most people aren't that attentive to certain details like that. I use ChatGPT literally almost every day for a variety of different problems or reasons, things. So I heard you talking to your friend, telling him that he should use ChatGPT for accounting. And I was like, oh, isn't that interesting? And then just when I was thinking that, that's when you asked me, it was like, Evan, I see you're using it. What are you using it for? And I'm thinking to myself, man, like it's some deep shit, bro. Like, are you sure? And that's why we're even here today for the people listening to talk about what that deep shit was. So I'm like, yeah, are you guys sure? Like it's pretty deep. And I don't know if it was you or one of your friends who were like, don't worry, we have shovels back here.
You
Like
got a shovel, baby.
deeper the
Let's
better.
go. Let's get deep with it.
Yeah. What that deep stuff was is why we're here, and it's about beliefs. And I've been studying beliefs and how they have an effect on your results, right? I'm not sure, like I'm sure for everybody listening, if you're listening to this podcast, is because you want better results in your life, whether that's more fitness, better finances, better relationships with people, you want better results. So what I've been studying has shown that all of the results that we have is based on our core beliefs. We meet our beliefs in our experiences. Our experiences prove what we believe. So knowing that, I'm like, okay, like I need to uncover what my core beliefs are. And one of the things that the book recommended is that whenever you feel an emotion, like a negative emotion, most books like Power of Positive Thinking just recommends no, just focus on thinking good. But that doesn't work. You also need to pay attention to these negative emotions, these negative thoughts. It's not that they have the power to just change your life if you think one negative thought. It comes from somewhere. And that place that it comes from is your beliefs. So essentially, if you can spot that feeling or that negative thought making you feel a certain way, and you dig into that, you'll find the core belief that's behind that. So how does this tie into me and Patrick in the Uber car ride in the middle of the city? So before I had picked him up, it was an experience. I had an experience that made me feel very irritated. And I picked up this young Indian guy, and he was with his girlfriend. By the way, it was like a Saturday night, right? It
Yeah.
was like a
No,
Friday.
Friday night. Friday night.
It was a Friday night. So it was like one of those nights. Picked up this young Indian guy and his girlfriend, and I'm already maybe like 6 hours, 7 hours in driving Uber. It's like midnight or something like that. And in the middle of our trip, he just changed the destination of where I'm dropping him off without telling me, which is something you're allowed to do, but it's kind of annoying if you don't communicate that to me because I'm already following the GPS. So anyway, I saw that it changed, and I was like, okay, bro, I see that you changed the trip. Like I got you, and he just ignored me. So that like annoyed me a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I'm a little annoyed, but I start driving to the new destination. And then this is when I start to notice some of my internal conversation popping up. We're in the middle of the city, and I drive to this really nice high-rise building. So I'm thinking, okay, this guy probably has some money if he's able to afford to live here. You know, it's like 5,000 a month just to rent here. Maybe he thinks he's better than me. Now, mind you, this guy hasn't said anything, but this is what I'm thinking. Oh, this guy thinks he's better than me. And when I pull up, it's time to get out. And I always say, all right, take care, have a good night. And they say nothing. They just ignore me again and then just get out of the car. And this really irritates me. And I'm
Mm.
just thinking, oh, okay, he thinks he's better than me. And my first reaction always, because I'm a positive guy, is to be like, no, let that go. Like, don't think about that. Think about something better. Think about something positive. And then I'm like, that's literally what the book said not to do, because that's an opportunity for me to figure out what is the core belief that would maybe even think about something like that. Because who knows, maybe they just had a really rough night. I've had rough nights where I don't feel like talking to my Uber driver. What makes me feel so entitled that I feel like they have to say goodbye or even change the trip? Who knows what happened? But this is just my projection of what I think they're doing. So I'm looking into like, why would I feel irritated? This is what I use Chat GPT for now. I go to Chat GPT and I'm using the talk function. And I'm like, what kind of limiting core belief would somebody have if they were to think these thoughts in this situation? I gave it the exact experience. And it basically gave me a list of core beliefs, but one of them stuck out. It was a core belief about self-worth.
Mm.
Something internally within me felt like attacked because they refused to acknowledge me.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this belief that I need to be acknowledged in order to feel whatever this worth is, that's what drove me to feel that way. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, okay, so what is a counter belief to that? Where if I were to adopt a different one, the opposite one, that would remove that, like, me from those type of experiences. And what ChatGPT explained is, I am good enough just how I am right now. And that hit me like a ton of bricks,
Wow.
because that is totally opposite to what I normally feel. I normally feel once I get here, then I will feel this. Once I start making 100 grand a month, which has been like a life goal forever, then I will feel this. Once my body looks like this, then I will feel worthy.
Mm.
And I'm like, wow, when have I ever just looked at my life and been like, I'm good enough just how I am right now? Even now, as I'm telling you this right now, Patrick, I can even feel there's some internal struggle with that, because I'm like, why would you feel like this is good enough? Why? But I'm like, because I hold this belief and other ones that support it, there's this fight. So for people listening, the goal for this podcast really is to explore this with Patrick and see how it can really benefit you, because Patrick has been on a mission with the My Tribe podcast and his clients, and it's really exciting to see, like, we literally hit off. Like, I basically explained that to him and his buddies like within like a couple of minutes before I dropped them off, and it was a lot of kumbaya. I'm like, bro, we have to meet, we have to talk, we have to go into this, because that was so deep. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what it was. It was like, oh, well, what are you doing it for? Well, I'm using it because I'm reflecting on some limiting beliefs because the last guy that was in here just pissed me off. And my boys are like, yo, this fucking guy a plant? Is he a plant? Did you plant this, Pat? I'm like, yo, this is it. This is just what happens. This is the blessings
Yeah.
when you live authentically and you just
Yeah.
allow miracles to happen. That's truly, what I've been so blessed to experience and to enjoy
Mhm.
and to share. So thank you for being a part of that. Thank you for being open to this. And yeah, man, I mean, so tell me, like, where, if you're not good enough than where you are, why not?
So I'm still digging into these beliefs, and I think there's more to it. Like, beliefs surrounding worth comes from, and this is so obvious once you say it, but it's invisible when you don't pay attention to and examine it, right? The belief that status or worth comes from achievements, material gain and just status in general. Because one of the things about that interaction that made me feel threatened, or I felt like he thinks he's better than me, is because of the perceived higher status. I'm
Mm.
here driving him around to his high rise luxury apartment, and he can't even acknowledge me. Why would that even affect me? Right? It might seem obvious, but me, I'm not willing to just stay in that zone. I want to move past it. I want to grow through it, because in other circumstances, it would literally mean nothing to me. I would have zero reaction, or it would even go to the point of I don't even notice it. Some
Mm.
people in my situation, if they were Uber driver, maybe you're even thinking right now, if you're listening, oh, I don't even think about those type of things. And all that goes to show is the difference between our core beliefs. So for me, the internal work of that is to examine it. Because the book that I'm reading, by the way, is called The Nature of Personal Reality.
Wow. By who?
It's by Seth Jane Roberts.
Okay.
Now, I'll say it is not for everybody. It is a little bit woo-woo,
Ain't
but
nothing with that.
yeah, the content of it is about how your beliefs become invisible to you. Beliefs become invisible to you when you take them as a characteristic of reality instead of just a belief of reality. You just assume that it's a truth, but no, it's just your belief about reality. It's not necessarily true. I'll give you an example of another one that I've discovered within myself, because there was this belief in weakness. And I'm like, where does this come from? Where is this feeling of like, I'm weak? Where does this come from? And when I peel the layers back, and it's not easy to do this, but you got to be diligent. You got to be like, no, I want to figure this out. When I peeled the layers back, it came from when I was a child. In my culture, the way I was treated was every time I felt fear, I was called a punk.
Mm.
So whenever I was afraid, somebody would be like, yo, you're a punk, you're a punk. So I associated fear to being a punk. And a punk is like somebody who's weak. They're a PUSSY, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So now being an adult and having a logical lens to that, that makes no sense. Being afraid does not make you weak. Every person is afraid. Mike Tyson, what was he synonymous for saying that shocked everybody after he retired? Yo, all those fights I was in, I was terrified. I was completely afraid, right?
Mhm.
I had nightmares about my opponent, that he was gonna beat me, that I dreamt about it, right? What did 50 Cent say in his book, right? He talked about after he was shot 9 times. He was completely afraid, right? But the difference between somebody who's strong and somebody who's really weak is that the people who are strong feel the fear and they move forward anyway.
Mm.
Cus D'Amato was Mike Tyson's trainer, and I love his quote about fear. He would focus on training his fighters on how to deal with fear because he knew it would come up. Everybody's going to feel it. But he would tell them fear is like fire. It will either consume you or you can use it to drive you. So, me being young, if I had that person to help me understand what this feeling of fear means, I wouldn't have interpreted it as me being a punk. I'm weak because I'm afraid that this person, they want to fight me, or I'm playing basketball here in a neighborhood and they're trying to intimidate me. I wouldn't have been associated it like that, because the reverse of that is like you're only strong if you don't feel fear. But we know that couldn't be further from the truth. If you look at Mike Tyson, arguably the greatest fighter of all time, he would tell you himself how afraid he was, but he used it as that fire to drive him.
Mm. What is your relationship to fear now, and how do you manage that? What's an example of that?
Well, that old belief is kind of like I've outgrown it, just going through life and just developing a new representation of myself. But it lingered which is why I had to examine it and see, like, why did I think like this? Why is this still some type of internal association to Evan Yearwood, myself? Now I look at fear, and it's kind of hard to put in words, but it's mainly what I just said. Mainly what I just said. I recognize that fear is something that is a normal part of it, a normal part of life.
Mhm.
It's a normal thing to experience. You should expect to experience it. It could be as simple as, getting on a plane or talking to somebody that could potentially be a business partner, or you're given an opportunity and you don't necessarily have the skills, but you want to go for it anyway. It could even be like as simple as somebody approaching you in the middle of the night. You're going to experience that fear. But if you take the lesson first that no, I will feel the fear, but what do I do after that? Let me exercise courage. And maybe it won't be so easy in like a big situation, but if you can even do it in the smaller situations where you look for little things where you feel afraid to do and you exercise courage there, that's when I think you'll build that strength that we recognize as quote unquote fearlessness, or what appears to be fearlessness.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think it takes a lot of courage to do something somebody isn't afraid to do. You don't have the fear. It doesn't take a lot of testicular fortitude to persevere, so to say.
Yeah.
And it's, when you have something, you come up against something that you might face that fear. Do you lean on, faith? Do you lean on self-belief? What is it that I mean, I feel that everyone needs to lean on something when fear comes into the picture to some degree. What would you say yours is?
I think I learned this from a good friend of mine named Samuel. Whenever I'm feeling fear, I try to look at it as, what am I assuming to be true that is not true?
Mhm.
So, for example, I'm driving late at night. I'm in neighborhoods all over New York City. Some of them are not very safe. So, when I'm feeling, well, I would say at this point, it's not even necessarily fear because I'm just so used to it. But in the beginning, when I'm in these neighborhoods, it'd be like, what am I assuming to be true that's not necessarily true? Somebody's just gonna pop up and put a gun to my head. Is that really very, very likely? The most likely is not. So what I try to base the emotions on is what is real instead of what I'm imagining could possibly happen. I think this will happen. Well, most of the time, most of those things never happen. I've never had that type of experience. I might have seen one YouTube video of some Uber driver and that happened, but that hasn't been my experience over the last 8 years and 24,000 trips later. So why is it that my brain wants to make up this imaginary scenario and then move from that assumption? You know, so it's like time to take a step back and taking the emotions out of it and putting logic into it.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how fast our mind can go down the wrong road of
Yeah,
thinking that neighborhood, oh my goodness, and boom, we're gonna get to that end of the road of where I got a gun in my head. As opposed
yeah,
to, well, maybe I pick up this guy, I save his life, and now he helps me, boom, 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 boom. And then now, like, we can go so fast in the wrong
yeah,
direction. What's
yeah.
stopping us from going so fast in the right direction?
Right, right.
Is that
It's
fear?
that in order to go in the right direction, for me, the answer I would give is allowing yourself to be present and be conscious enough to make that decision. Because most of these thoughts that we're thinking are habitual. We've been thinking them for years. They're ingrained. They're conditioned. They're automatic.
Mhm.
But if you can, what is this? Like, what am I feeling right now? By taking that breath and just thinking for a second, you're being present and you're allowing yourself to examine these thoughts. And that's the problem with limiting beliefs that run rampant, as they never go examined. Some
Mhm.
of the limiting beliefs I found in myself are just so stupid and silly. Like when you look at them, it's like, why did I ever think that?
Such as,
Let me see. I've been trying to list them out. Here's a stupid one. Making a lot of money is supposed to be hard.
Mm.
Making a lot of money is supposed to be hard. Why? Why, Evan? Why do you think that? Well, when I look into it, is because if you make money easily, number one, it will be lost easily. And number two, you won't be respected. So
Mhm.
making a lot of money is supposed to be hard. But is that a characteristic of reality, or is that just my belief of reality? Well, it's just my belief. And because of that, for me to make a lot of money, I have to work fucking hard
Mhm.
because you meet your beliefs and experience. So for me, I look at that and I'm like, I don't know why I believe that, but I can see that I believe that. I can see that that's what I've internalized. And now the next step is to think like, is this true? No. Making a lot of money can be very easy. Some people make a lot of money very easily. It's not supposed to be hard. Why am I putting this arbitrary challenge on it? Why? Because I believe I have to be respected for making money the hard way. It doesn't have to be like that. And if anybody is here thinking like, wow, I'm really resonating with that, but you're feeling this internal battle, is because you also believe that making a lot of money is supposed to be hard. Making money is supposed to be hard. So I'm taking that as a characteristic of reality. Is my assumption that this is true. And that's when beliefs become invisible to us. When we think this is just a matter of fact, this is just a truth.
Mhm.
That's not true. It's not necessarily true. It
Mhm.
might seem to be true because of the results, but our results are only the reflection of what we believe. I don't know where I got that belief from, but I know that if I want to experience the opposite of that, I need to develop a new belief. And what I've developed instead of that is like conditioning that making a lot of money is so normal and natural. Because I would imagine that's what somebody who makes a lot of money every day believes. Having millions of dollars in your bank account is the most normal and natural thing. It's not like this the most powerful affirmation that you can find. No, it's the belief. It's
Mhm.
the belief. What does that type of person who lives the life that you want, what do they believe? Well, if they make a lot of money, I would think they would probably have a lot of beliefs. Like one of their other beliefs might be, I will always have enough. Or it might even be, I will always have more than enough.
Mhm.
Making money is so normal and so natural. So yeah, that's one of the most silliest. I got a couple. I try to pick them up. But
But
tell me, what do you get out of that?
I that that was really powerful. I think that's a belief that a ton of people have a similar shared understanding, shared belief, whether it be society or just in general. And the way that you walked it and realized, hold on, why does that have to be the belief? You kind of hit pause on it, and what you did, you realized that was a limited belief, and you didn't go to I'm gonna have $2 million by next year. You went to an abundant and limitless belief of making money is easy. It doesn't need to be difficult. It's normal. And you put it in a way that doesn't have any ceilings. That to me was really powerful in the shift that you just created for yourself. Because if you start putting ceilings and caps on things, then at that point it's why even aspire if that's going to be it. Goals are important, but I think that when you truly determine the outcome you want and you leave the details up to whoever and whatever, a higher power, if you will, is where I stand, then I think the abundant blessings will truly not stop coming to your door. So
Right.
I, wow, that was amazing. That was an amazing belief to walk us through here. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we can do more, but I think we should do with you because I look at your success story and I think there's a lot that the listeners can take out of it. Maybe you could tell me because I don't even know that much about your story, only the pictures and stuff on Instagram.
Mm. Well, thank you. Yeah, I know we talked about your passion of coaching. So let's go. Let's do a little coaching session here. How's that sound to you?
Okay, okay, that'd be interesting.
I'll express a limiting belief and then we can explore it. A limiting belief. Wow. Well, one of the biggest limiting beliefs that I had was I love personal training, but there's no money.
Mhm. There's no money in
There's no financial growth in that. There's no financial there was that. It wasn't a respected job or career, so to say. That was something that I battled with for a while. And even when
it.
people ask me today, like, what do you do? I'm a personal trainer. It still is kind of difficult for me to embrace that as, I guess, seeing a true future in it and
Mm.
seeing a path forward. I like a very fruitful path forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
I would say that it comes from either internal judgments of when I previously worked at a career that was, making over six figures and I had a title and a career and benefits and a 401k, where a lot of society stands and determines that's quote unquote success. That's their
Hmm.
label of success. When
Right.
in terms when I really broke it down, when I was blessed to get to the top of that industry, to be making a top earning salary.
What industry was that?
That was the residential management industry. I was running residential
Okay.
in Manhattan.
Okay.
And it was so scary to explore something else. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I didn't want to do that because it wasn't fulfilling. And I guess
Mm.
going into like circling back of, from that place, I chased money and status mm, and approval as opposed to what made me happy and what is it that I love doing. And I truly believe we live in a day and age that if you love doing it, then why can't you just be successful? Even this right here, what we're doing right now. I had this
Hmm.
limit. We're a twist to this. Oh yeah, I love doing podcasts, but like I don't see it being, as a source of income. Like I don't see it as my main as it could be my main source of income. I love
Hmm.
it because it gives me an opportunity to meet
And
amazing
this is how
people
you
like
feel
you.
now.
This is where I'm standing in this seat right now. Yeah.
Okay, so let's establish what you really want because we can tackle that limiting belief, right? But if it's not going to help you get to where you want to go, then our efforts should be focused there. But if you're going to tell me, Evan, I want to build my tribe, I want to build this personal training into a career that produces a level of prosperity for me that I can feel excited about, then we're gonna go ham on that limiting belief, right? I don't know if anybody remembers ham,
Oh
what
yeah.
that means. Yeah.
I was in the
Okay.
ham crew, bro.
Okay. All right. So would you say that's the case? I want to build my tribe. I want this to be something successful, fruitful, prosperous. I wanted to impact people. Well, is that what you would say? Or do you tell me?
I would say I want the My Tribe podcast to be the most impactful podcast out there. Why not? Why one of the most? No, I want the My Tribe podcast to be the most. Let's just keep doing it. Impactful podcasts in terms of self-development, personal health, and personal development.
Okay. You want My Tribe podcast to be the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of personal growth, impact, recognizability,
Mm-hmm.
success. Okay. So let's establish, why would you even feel that that is not possible, or it's not something to put your time into? Where does that come from?
It could be a combination of, do I really deserve that? Am I deserving of such a beautiful feat? Am I deserving of such a amazing accomplishment? I would say.
Mhm.
Is it rooted in like the safety and security of having a 9 to 5, or the safety and security of having a job and a career with benefits? Is that the subconscious? These are the subconscious programmings that I would say I'm exploring at the moment and deconditioning.
So you've already made strides in the direction that you want to go. You started the podcast, you are training, you're even to the point where you're inviting people you just met, like the Uber driver in the middle of the night, yo, come on my podcast. So you have some real strong, from my perspective, momentum toward that direction. So the limiting beliefs that you have right now is more centered in what, like really putting it on? Are you holding yourself back? Do you feel like there's still more that you can do that you're not doing?
Certainly, I think there are both. There's a lot of personal things I think I could be doing or should be doing, whether it be, marketing or promotion or just, investing in general into the podcast. I think that would be some of the things that I'm not doing that I should be doing.
Is this your main source of income, training and podcasts?
Training is my main source of income. Podcast is just a hobby for fun at the moment. There is
Okay.
there isn't sponsors, there isn't anything of that nature yet.
Okay. So a lot of the questions I've asked right now is just to help me get a lot of context, where you are, your life, and what's going on, and more importantly, where you want to go. So
Mhm.
what I want to do now is this method that I call the deep dive method. And essentially, I want to establish the vision or the goal of where you want to be in the most ideal way. What is the ideal circumstance that Mr. Patrick would love to see 3 years, 5 years from now?
Mhm.
Once we get clear on that vision, the next step is the most hardest part. I want to figure out, what does that vision mean to you on the deepest level? What does that mean to you? Now, I got to teach you a little bit about why this is important so we can understand. And I won't lie, bro, we might not have enough time, so we can even do a part two. Okay.
All right,
But
yeah,
first,
let's just run with it. Don't worry about no time right now. Let's just run with it.
okay. So I want to figure out, what does that vision mean to you? Why? Meaning equals emotion. And the more meaning we can find, the more emotion is going to be there. Just imagine us picking the goal is like picking a fruit out of the basket. There's a lot of different fruits, and you're like, I want that orange right there. Okay, we've established the goal. Finding the meaning is like squeezing the juice out of the fruit, and that juice is what we would call the essence of your goal.
Mhm.
Once we figure out what that goal means to you on the deepest level, it'll almost be like a visceral motivation. we would have established your core motivating factor, the thing that drives you, the thing that wakes you up, the thing that makes you push through your training sessions or dealing with clients or whatever that is. And then we can use that to establish empowering beliefs, get rid of limiting beliefs, and essentially transform your self-image. But it starts by finding that deep meaning. Now, before we begin, I'm just going to give you one example so you can really conceptualize it. Let's say I get a client, right? I'm a personal trainer, and then this guy, Malcolm, comes up. He's like, Evan, I want to be fit. So I'm like, okay. For me, I know that's not a good reason. Everybody wants to be fit. I want to know, why does this person want to be fit? What does that being fit mean to them? So I ask him, why do you want to be fit? What does that even mean to you? And then he says, well, Evan, like, I want to be an Army Ranger and I have to be fit so I can pass and get in and become an Army Ranger. But as I'm talking to him, like, I can tell this is what he wants. He's serious, but there's no emotion. There's no emotion in what he's saying. And meaning equals emotion. So if there's no emotion in what he's saying, then what he's saying doesn't really mean that much then. So I dig deeper. I'm like, okay, you want to be an Army Ranger. Why don't you tell me why? What does being an Army Ranger mean to you? And then he says very quickly, like, oh, well, I come from a long line of Army Rangers. My father was an Army Ranger. My grandfather was an Army Ranger. My great-grandfather was an Army Ranger. And I want to continue that line. So I'm listening to him and he's pretty excited about it. There's like some emotion in his voice. Like there's this like enthusiasm. So I'm like, okay, this is great. But still, you have to go deeper because I want it to the point where it's visceral. I want to see it all over his face, the emotion, because I know once we hit the vein of emotion, we've hit what really means the most in. So I say, okay, you want to continue that line, but tell me, where does this come from? Why do you have this drive to want to continue this line? Like, why don't you just go do something else? Why would you put yourself through training? Training is hard, right? Quote unquote hard. And then he pauses for a second. I can tell he's never thought about it that deep. He just knows he wants to continue the line, but he thinks. And then after a beat, he's like, you know what, Evan? It's because of my grandma. When I was 5 years old, I would always go to my grandma's house. And she was the most wonderful woman. She would just like feed me. She would praise me. She would teach me things. And as we would all eat dinner at grandma's house, I would see the pictures of my father, my great-grandfather, and all my forefathers on the wall. And she would always point to them and say, this is what he did. And this is what he did. And she would tell us the stories. And I looked up to my forefathers thinking, wow, I want to be like them. So I know we've hit the mark because now he's like literally on the verge of crying. Like, it's like I've unlocked a memory that he forgot about. So I'm like, okay, we got it, bro. That is what being fit means to you.
That's the why.
It's about this. What's that?
That's the why.
That's the why. That's the core why. That's the heart level why. So I call this the deep emotional meaning. Now, the next step after that is to turn that emotional meaning into an emotional trigger, which you can use at any time. So I'm like, okay, so we know what this means here at the deepest level, being fit, right? So I want you to imagine this right now. Imagine you are fit, you're strong, your pull-ups meet the requirements, you're running, you're strong, you look amazing, but you're an Army Ranger now. And you just graduated. In fact, you were just given your portrait. You're about to celebrate at your grandmother's house. All of your family is there. You have the portrait in your hand. You're wearing, the outfit of an Army Ranger. And when you get in there, everybody's smiling. You see your grandmother, and she's just so excited. You hand your portrait over to her, and she takes it and she puts it right next to your father's. So it goes you, your father, your grandfather, your grandfather, and now she's pointing to you the same way she was pointing to your fathers and your forefathers. This person is in tears. They are in tears. Now, that is what we call that is what I call it an incredible emotional trigger. Because anytime he thinks about that scene, it will make him feel as if it had already happened.
Mm.
And we will use that within our day-to-day to rewire our mind into the self-image of the person who's already living that life. Because the main reason why we meditate, the main reason why we visualize, the main reason why we pray is to get ourselves to feel as if it had already happened. And if you can embody a scene that means the world to you on the deepest level, to the point where you literally feel like it has already happened, now you're not chasing your goal. You're moving from your goal. It's something that's driving you internally instead of something externally pulling you.
Mm.
So
Wow.
that is my method. Do you have any questions or any comments?
That's a powerful framework. I don't. I'm nervous, but I dig it. Just feeling the fear, but acting anyway. This is it.
Mm, yeah.
Wow. That's
Okay. So, are you ready?
ready as I'll ever be.
All right. So, first, I want to know, what does your life look like 3 years from now? You mentioned your career with personal training and my tribe. So let's focus on this particular part. We can always focus on relationships and health goals and other goals, but let's focus on what your career looks like. If we were to just, take the reins off and just say, in the most idealistic way, what does your ideal career in personal training and my tribe look like 3 years from now?
I would say it's hard to understand where it's going to be 3 years from now, because I would prefer to be in more of a managerial position than the one-on-one, constant. I love training my clients. I love that connection. But I think in terms of scalability, you have to be able to be a little more hands off. And that's, whether that's going to be, you got to stop trading your time for dollars at some point. So
Right.
whether that goes into, online coaching, or, like hearing the possibility from a mentor of mine of using personal training to get to, being able to do the podcast full time, be able to connect with individuals like this on a daily basis. Yeah, I think that's a lot more of the goal that I want to aim for than the training aspect. Training
Okay.
is something that I love to do, but I would say tired, this, that, or the other thing, no matter how I feel, I think what we're getting to do at the moment, and the connection is
Yeah.
more what if I had a perfect world, this is what I want to do every day.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong. You want to build your personal training business to a point where it can scale without you. You're in a managerial role, you have trainers that are training clients, and your time isn't totally tied up there. Right? You're involved, you're active, but you're making more than enough money there, but you're able to focus on here, the podcast, My Tribe. Is that accurate?
Yeah, yeah. I would say that, when you get out of bed, there's things in your day that you look forward to. That would be where I would prefer to look forward to. Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that really helped me help my clients find that deeper meaning is zooming out. Because a lot of times people's goals are usually just the step to the next thing. And they have a goal right now to make a certain amount of money, but it's really so they can do this next thing that they're really interested in. So, is the My Tribe podcast the means, or is that the ends, at least for now in this stage of your life?
In this stage of my life, I would say the podcast is more of the end than the means. I would say that the training ends up being shifted into the means to the end, which would be
Yeah,
podcast.
right. Okay, this is great. So, 3 years from now, or let's say 4 years from now, what does it look like? What does your life look like when you have the podcast that's connecting you with the unique individuals, and you have the audience that's engaged, and like it's a community, there's discussion, there's even in-person meet. What does that look like, your ideal version of that?
My ideal version looks like I get to sit down with extremely knowledgeable, influential, and impactful people on a regular basis, getting to know who they are, what their mission is, helping them share their mission, their passion, and their purpose, and contributing to value in both their life and the lives of my listeners.
Wow. So I find it so interesting how I mentioned audience, but your main thing, at least the first thing you talked about, is the meeting of these interesting people, hearing their stories, having like collaborating with them, and you even helping them. That seems to be, at least if I am understanding, the core of like why you want to build a podcast. What do you think? Is that accurate, or is there more to it?
No, I think that would be very accurate. I remember, watching or listening to a lot of Lewis Howes and even Joe Rogan of like, I love the back seat that these guys take. They're like, listen, I'm not the expert, but this is the guy. He knows how to coach. He knows what he's doing. And to be able to soak that in like a sponge, if this seat is constantly filled by the same individual and that seat's constantly rotating, imagine how well-rounded this seat is going to get to be able to make
Mm,
much more of an impact, I would say.
wow. So it's even like a personal desire for growth and being more well-rounded, the way you're saying, hearing so many different perspectives.
Yeah,
Is that accurate?
I would say that's accurate.
So what does that mean to you? Why is that important to you, to, or what motivates you about that, to have such a podcast like that where you're meeting psychologists, coaches, people with just interesting stories? What drives you to want to have that?
I would say a lot of the messages, the limiting or unlimiting beliefs that I was able to do the work on, a lot of the personal development that I received was through a similar podcast, but were through similar platforms essentially. So I was able to develop myself by listening to these unique individuals go on podcasts such as a Joe Rogan, such as a Lewis Howes School of Greatness. And that was, let's call it like, I would never go out of my way and read a book of like by said guru. I mean, like hear a clip of an interview here or there, but to actually sit down and hear and like listen to this guy speak for an hour and a half, you really develop a connection. And now that he's on the podcast because he's selling a book. I never would have bought his book about karma and have a deeper understanding of karma and so on and so forth if if I was never listening to that podcast in the first place. So I guess it's that expression of exposure.
Mm.
That's I would say that drives me. Exposure to different things, different people, different places, different experiences.
Why is that important to you?
Because we're only limited by our experiences in terms of our understanding of the world. There's only a couple of ways that you can change these limited beliefs. You can do the work, observe them, do the conscious and unconscious reprogramming. You could read books, you could meet different individuals and take on their life perspective. So, with those being the few and far between channels, I think the one that has the most connection and impact on me is getting to know and connecting with somebody. I think actually it could go back to I even like catch myself when I would like as a kid, I'd hang around another kid that would curse, right? I'd come home, I'd curse for the whole week. And then I'd hang around a kid that skateboarded and I'd be skateboarding the whole week. So
Hmm.
I think looking that far back and correlating it to this in the sense of, well, if you hang around people that are successful, that are consciously happy, that are, financially successful, you you start to mimic those traits.
Yeah. And you clearly desire to embody those traits that you value within yourself through your exposure through other people, whether it's through listening or through your own podcast, right?
Yeah, certainly.
But why would you even care about that? Not everybody thinks like that.
Why would I care about what specifically?
About your own personal growth through those avenues, through the exposure of listening to other people or meeting other people.
I would say that my growth has been so fulfilling. The the person that I am today is not the same person that I was in 2021. It isn't even the same person that I was a year ago. And I'm blessed to say that and blessed to embrace that because of the commitment to my growth and
Mm,
being on the other side of that. And I'm not gonna be the same person next month either. And I'm very okay with that because I want to be a better and more evolved version of myself. So the fulfillment in that work is I why that's important to me.
mm. Let's talk about that for a little bit. This person from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, who was that person?
That person was was lost but trusting the process.
Mm,
Person didn't know exactly what direction to head in, but persevered anyway. Didn't really have a clear sense of direction, but honestly, he trusted a higher power and he ended up in this amazing place, in this amazing doing what I love to do every day. I have this amazing podcast where I get to meet individuals like you. I mean, I could never even imagine be like training full time. Could not even imagine that. Now I have like my schedule is overflowing. I'm just beyond blessed, beyond blessed.
mhm.
So who is this person? The person standing here, I would say, believes.
I want to move on into the next part of the coaching session. I'm going to put you into the future.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be 4 years from now. It's going to be lovely 2028. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the My Tribe podcast is has brought you so much fulfillment in your life. It is almost unbelievable the type of people that you've met. And this doesn't include like famous or well-known people, like just people you would never even thought of having a conversation with or imagine having a conversation with. It has totally transformed you in the most positive way. I want us to go to that future and we're going to imagine that, like, let's say we haven't been talking for a couple months or whatever, and we're just getting on a phone call or a Zoom and we're just catching up and we're just talking about like what it was like, how things have changed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to do that. So are you ready, Mr. Patrick?
Yeah.
All right. So close your eyes. I'm going to count down from three, and it is going to be July 1st, 2028. You're 4 years older. You're 4 years wiser. You're 4 years healthy. 4 years more healthy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Three, two, one. Hello? Hey, Patrick, what's up, man?
Evan, what's good, baby? How we doing?
Ah, man, I'm doing good, maxing and relaxing, bro. How are you? It's been a while. What's going on?
I'm doing amazing right now. I'm doing great.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been quite a journey these last 4 years.
Hmm. And tell me about that. What's that been like?
Mm. It's been amazing. I didn't know that. I had no idea that I could have made it here. I didn't even think that this was a possibility. But I get to meet amazing people. I get to I get to truly mm, help individuals like myself previously who were so lost, who didn't know which road to go down, who were stuck in the cycle of like partying and that BS, that societal get messed up every weekend. I'm able to, help possibly break that cycle for some of them. And I
Hmm.
think I couldn't believe the impact that I've been able to make in these last 4 years. I've met truly, truly amazing people. And I want to say it's unbelievable, but it's not because it is believable.
Hmm.
Because I've just been,
Wow, man. So now that you're here, right? Like it is truly astonishing. Like like you said, it is unbelievable. You would have never thought that you're here, right? What does it mean to you that you've made it this far in your journey?
what does it mean to me? After having interviewed the idols, the people that I looked up to, what does it mean to me after, seeing eye to eye and considering myself one of the greatest podcasters out there, um, connectors or interviewees? What does that mean to me? Job well done, mission accomplished. What does that mean to me?
But tell me about the journey, because you're further than you ever even thought was possible.
Mhm. Mhm.
What does it mean to you to make it that far?
What does it mean to me to make it this far? I guess it means more to me because I guess like the more the internal motivation of like doing it just to kind of show it's possible to my people and my tribe. Like follow your passions. If you're passionate about podcasting, if you're passionate about podcasting, if you're passionate about coaching, you're passionate about anything, mechanics, cybersecurity, go all in. If that's what you really want to do, burn the boats. Don't commit to only have one, is what it means to me, I would say.
Mhm. So I would imagine, and we haven't talked in a while, but I would imagine that you have many people who have decided to take action and have succeeded based on your example, taking action and going after what they want, right? People who used to be quote unquote lost, like you described yourself, but now have found a sense of purpose. What does it mean to you to have lived a life that has inspired people to go down that same path?
I would say it means almost everything to me in the sense of wanting and being able to inspire change for the better. Because I never believed, I always liked change, I always listened to the speeches and I went to the gym, but I missed a lot of I never believed in myself that I could do it. I never believed that it was even possible. So with it not being possible, I guess that's more of what it means. I want it to mean that it's possible
Hmm. Impossible for who?
for anybody. I want it to mean that it's possible for anybody who is considering self-improvement, is considering the the betterment and to actually to commit fully to that.
Let's go 6 months further into the future. Now is December 2028. And we're going to pick up our conversation, but you had recently got not an email, but a handwritten letter in the mail. And it has been somebody who's been paying attention to you and following you. And because of you, they've decided to pursue a path in their life that they never thought was possible for themselves. But you're the one that allowed them to believe. And because of that, they're living a fulfilling life.
Mm-hmm.
So let's fast forward right to that point. And I want you to tell me, what does that mean to you? And even if you have to take some time and really imagine getting that letter, reading it, do that. And then tell me, what does that mean to you?
I would say reading that letter is it truly feels as if I helped that person. I helped them find their potential. I didn't do it. I don't want any of the credit at all. I want to just be able to, I guess, nudge them in the right direction. Nudge them in the direction of self-belief. Just believe in self, and then the rest is going to work out. So when I'm reading that, I'm at the end of it, and it's super to feel like, wow, this individual made it here because of the nudge from me. I would say I'm truly experiencing joy, fulfillment, gratitude, trust in the process that, like, that I am strong enough and impactful enough to to help an individual get there, I would say. Believing it's possible.
Patrick, you are a very humble soul.
Thank you.
What is it like to see in another what you couldn't see for yourself, but somebody else helped you find, but you nudged them to help them find potential? It was difficult for you to believe, for you to move past that, and you have.
Mm.
And on some level, you really knew you would. But what is it like for you to take that torch within you and light somebody else's flame?
That's that's love. That's the essence of like seeing someone's true potential. I feel like that's why we're here. Like why else are we here other than to live the most full life? If you're gonna live a half-assed life, what's the sense? What are you doing here? And if you're able to both give and receive that nudge or flame, that to me is the essence of life and love.
I truly believe that drives both of us on the deepest level. Now, out of everything we've touched so far, we've gone very deep. So I appreciate you trusting me to have that type of a conversation with you. I don't take that lightly at all. But out of everything we've talked about, what has really touched you the most? What has really been that touchstone?
It's interesting because I'm like right past my computer. I have a couple certificates and there's a letter on the wall that I had an employee write me that he was immensely grateful. Um, that he actually, when I left the job, he was sitting next to another employee, and that employee started to break down crying because he was going to miss me because of a day that it was snowing outside, and I, as the boss, went out and helped him shovel. So when like we talk about it, it's receiving that letter. It's that thinking about the impact that I've been blessed to inspire already. And I would say that was probably the most monumental aspect of our, or impactful aspect of our
Mhm.
conversation.
Yeah, and your state has completely changed in a very calm and centered way. How would you describe how you feel right now?
I would say heart centered. I would say aligned and, yeah, coming from that place of passion.
Hmm. It's amazing what happens when we get close to that deep meaning. You don't have to try and get yourself to feel like how you feel. It's just the natural happening of when you get close to what means the most to you. You'll feel that emotion. And it doesn't have to be crying or just some overt emotion. It could be just that heart centeredness that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Well, I know that I agree with you, but I think that like moving from this place is even more, I don't want to say motivating, but it's more inspiring because you got to be motivated to do something, right? Like oh, I'm going to do push-ups. So you got to need the motivation, you got to have the why. But when you're in the space of the why, then you're inspired, you're attracted, not pulled. Or you're
Mm.
pulled. You're as you said before, you were talking about it in the sense of
Yeah, you're moving from a place within instead of being pulled from a place without.
yes. That exactly. Yes. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this all for the money. I'm gonna do this all for this. No, you're moving from a place of purpose.
Not once have I heard you mention, and you could have, and I wouldn't have judged, but not once have I heard you mention anything about the number of subscribers or the amount of people in your audience or the amount of money. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But the fact that you kept going back, and I tried to bring other things up, I did, but you kept coming back to this self exploration, but also the effect of that is other people being affected. The way you were affected when you listened to podcasts and you were quote unquote clueless about where you wanted to go and you didn't have that deeper understanding. But through listening, your mind was expanded. And now you hope to continue to expand your mind through the people you meet, but also to give those others who would connect through you and expand the same way. Is that accurate?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I've ever looked at it in that way. I think I always like listen to podcasts. I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be cool to sit in that seat. But I don't think I've ever really dove that deep into it as to why, um, and to get to see where it was helping me, and to getting to see where I would want that for other. Because I used to share podcasts with my friends, like, yo, this
Mm,
is a great one. This is a great one.
yeah.
And
That seat,
yeah,
that quote unquote seat, has a deep meaning to you.
yeah,
You want to see the person that you enjoy in that seat, but you also want to experience that seat.
hmm,
Is the letter that you received, is that a powerful emotional trigger for you?
yeah, yeah. I'd certainly say it was. Yeah.
That's the quote unquote picture on the wall
Hmm.
for you. And it's crazy. I didn't even know that you had a letter before from your
I'm looking
previous employer.
right past
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
literally in your center of focus in your own office space. It just goes to show the deep meaning of that, where you would want to put it up and you recognize that.
Yeah, it's just another blessed miracle, synchronicity, whatever label that.
It's a symbol.
Yeah.
That's the correct term for it. The chair, the podcast chair, and the letter is symbolic to you in terms of what it means, right? When you receive that letter, not because you are the one who helped this person and they owe you. No, you're too like not you're not too humble, but your soul is past needing that ego recognition. I'm doing this because of my own wanting of fulfillment, right? Because I just want to see you succeed. Like even you having me on this podcast, there's no payments. I'm not asking for any payments. Literally, most of the questions you've asked me when we were talking a couple days ago is like, how can I help you?
Mm.
You didn't literally say that, but that's basically what you're doing when you're asking me to introduce me to the gentleman that also does cybersecurity, and even the fact that you turned this conversation toward coaching is like, no, let me promote you.
Yeah, I mean I just I want to help. Like
Just
how
some random Uber driver you met in New York 5 days ago.
you're not wrong. I appreciate the awareness of that, man. My dad's always been very open and helping people. Like he helped people get jobs my whole life. To see that was really inspiring. And I think to take some of that and spin it in the way that whatever platform that I can do it in, I think is where that's rooted in, I would say.
Hmm.
Thank you for acknowledging that though, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. This has been a very magical experience. Let's take it home. So your emotional trigger, from what I understand, is those letters. And what the letters symbolizes is the impact,
Mm.
the impact of your own personal growth and your testimony inspiring others. That's what those letters symbolize. So the thing about creating a vision, right? You don't focus on the how. The how sorts itself out. How do I scale my personal training business? How do I earn enough money in my podcast? That's not of your concern. Your concern is to internalize the why behind the vision in the future. So for you, what I would recommend is center your attention around those letters. Maybe it might feel like you don't have enough time, but make time.
Mm.
10 minutes is more than enough. And sit down and just really like put yourself in that future. It's 3 years or 4 years, whatever time seems reasonable to you. Put yourself there. Pick a day. This is a Tuesday. Pick a time. It's like, oh, it's at the end of the day. In the future, imagine where you are. Maybe you're in Kansas enjoying the beautiful stars. Maybe you're in another country. Maybe you're in a car. Literally imagine yourself in that situation. And then pull out that letter. Like this, another one. Your friend is like, yo, like you got another one? Yeah, look, you're both reading it together. And put yourself there. Think about like the impact that you've made because you decided to be selflessly expressing yourself.
Mm. Wow. That's some homework that's certainly going to be implemented into my life. Wow. I love that. Coming from the goal. Wow.
And you can also do more with that seat, the seat that you're in. I mean, I know we're talking about the future, but you're literally living the future right now. You're in that seat experiencing that expansion. And when this is uploaded, who knows how far it'll go? It'll be on YouTube as long as you have it up. It could be tomorrow, it could be next year, it could be 3 years from now. Somebody sees this and that impact is real. It's literally happening.
Mm. Yeah, you're you're not wrong. The letters are being written, right? The impact is being sowed.
Right.
Mm. Wow. Yeah. And dude, yeah, I've worked with a number of coaches. You're very, very talented at this. I don't know if somebody's giving you the proper credit yet, but wow.
That means a lot to me. Thank you.
How can somebody who's listening to this get involved? Take it.
Well, if they would like to get involved or at least have a conversation to see how I can help them, they can send me an email at evan@grandviewsuccess.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's Evan, EVAN, at grandviewsuccess.com. Just send me an email. Just say hello and tell me what you thought about this coaching method. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to have this type of experience, or you want me to be your coach, let's talk. Let's see how I can help you.
Mm.
Just send me an email.
Is there any socials or anything of that nature that they can follow you on as well?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is Evan from NYC. Okay. You can add me on Facebook, Evan H. Yearwood. That's my full name. Or you can even add me on LinkedIn. Those are the three most active social medias that I have: Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. But if you want to have a direct conversation with me, the fastest way is just to send me an email, evan@grandviewsuccess.com, and then we can have a conversation, see how I can help you.
Wow. So Evan, I mean, this has been kind of, it was almost as if the host was flip-flop here, and I kind of appreciated it. But getting back to some of the core beliefs, the core values of the My podcast, I like to ask my guests, when it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered? What do you want them to say at the time of your passing?
You know, Patrick, we're actually the same in a lot of ways.
Mm,
I want to be fully expressed in all ways possible. Creatively, wealth, fitness, impact. But I've thought about this, and for me, I would imagine what I would like my life to equate to is being like black soil in the Amazon. If you know black soil in the Amazon, it is one of the most fertile soil in the world. It has been studied and it has, from what I understand, never replicated. I might be wrong about never being replicated, but the soil is the most fertile soil in the world.
mm,
I want my life to be like that soil. I want to live a life so rich that anything planted in that black soil of my life will blossom and flourish more than I would have ever even thought for myself. Like I want to build an estate for my family, for my last name, for the Yearwood family. I want to develop a level of fitness that's equal to somebody in the military, like a military level strength. I want to, I want my marriage to be successful and my children to see the example in that. I want all of that for myself for society. But ultimately, I want to be the soil. I want to be, I want to leave that impact where I leave the gift of like here's my library. Here's all the books. Here's the studying that I've done. Here I've simplified it. And here you take it. You run with it. Like you go on. So if I were to be asked, what do I want said in my eulogy, you know, knock on wood, you know, many decades into the future, I would want people to be giving me like to be given their testimony of how the flame that I wanted for myself lit their flames.
mm.
I would consider that a successful life. The money, the influence, the status, like that's all in the arm's reach of what I want for Evan Yearwood. But what I want all of those achievements to mean is it has inspired others to also go for it too.
Wow, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. I love- Wow, that was powerful. So before we go, tell me a little bit more about Grandview Success.
Okay, so Grandview Success is the name of my coaching company.
Mhm.
And the mission that I have for Grandview Success is to become the world's most client obsessed company. I want to be so focused and so obsessed with the client experience from A to Z, from the moment they've ever heard about Grandview Success to even if they were to become a client alumni where they've gone through the coaching and maybe they're advocating for other people. I want that A to Z client experience to be world class. That is my mission for Grandview Success. And if I were to say where I am in my life, and we can use this as like a timestamp for like the future, so we can look back on it, even me. That my current goal is to break into cybersecurity and establish a foundation where I can build that on top of. Because I've already tried focusing my time into Grandview Success, but I've been going through a lot of chaos, at least in the last year of my life, mainly financially, because of the car that I had bought. I literally repaired every single part of the car you can imagine. It's on its third engine. It needs a second transmission. I've changed the cooling system, the alternator, the car is literally at the end of its life, and I just sold it recently. So I
Mm.
realized I can't build something strong on the foundation of this shaky ground driving Uber. So that's why I decided to pick a career that I enjoy, that there's income potential, and there's at least some stability there, so I can now say, okay, I'm doing this, and then focus on what I really want to do, which is coaching people, and then building a business. And I want to train people in the method that I just used on you, the deep dive method. I'm writing a book that explains the power of meaning. It's called Vivid Emotions, Vivid Life. That's something that I'm working on to really teach, like, what is it about meaning that is so transformative? When you find that deep meaning, it just shapes your mind. It really helps you create the self-image of yourself in the future. So that's the game plan. And Grandview success is, I'm looking forward to seeing, like, me put more time into it now. I can't say that's my life now, but um, you know, I'm making small progress with the clients that I work with one on one, and then I hope to build onto that as my financial life becomes more stable.
What's a concrete goal that we can connect on here and reconvene in terms of the specific and measurable goal?
All right, so this might not seem so intuitive, but I want to write at least 3 or 4 essays
Mhm.
surrounding some of the core topics in my book. That could be a goal for, like, the next time we meet, right? I want to write 3 or 4 essays, and the reason why is because I learned this from Dr. Jordan Peterson. When people know how to write, they actually learn how to think,
Mm.
and they learn to articulate their ideas more powerfully. And there's nothing more powerful than somebody who knows how to put together an argument. Somebody who knows how to explain things with points and things like that. So
Mm.
there's some really big ideas in my book. For example, you can't outwork a negative self-image. That's one of the core ideas in my book. I want to write an essay on that and edit it and read and distill it and rewrite it and then have it here, because I've experienced that before. When you write, it does something to your brain. It's just at the tip of your tongue. So when you look at somebody like Dr. Joe Dispenza, and we're in awe with how he speaks about the brain and the neuroplasticity and the all those terms. Like, how does he remember this stuff? I don't know. But if I were to guess, I would guess this guy writes. I
Mm.
would guess that he writes. So the next goal for me that would tremendously help with my book and teaching people and even coaching is to write at least 3 essays. There's one that I've already decided I want to write, which is about that idea, can I work in the negative self-image? And the purpose of the essay is to just explain that, prove that, show that through research, through books, or through anecdotal experience, my experience, so that whenever somebody asks me about that, I don't got to be like, oh, wait, let me check my phone. It's already here.
Mm.
That would be the goal.
Amazing. 3 essays on 3 topics of your book.
Right. Yep.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to check in and to see where we are.
Okay. All right.
Do
Okay.
we have a date by?
All right. Let's do the first essay first. Let's focus on the goal on, like, getting the first essay, because this essay is the most important essay. It is the first chapter of the book, and I've already written like 4 or 5 chapters, but this first chapter is so important because I want the reader to end that chapter being like, I have to change my self-image.
Mm.
Like it's like, I get it, I got it. This is something that I want them to have decided that this is so important. Evan has made the case for that. I got it. All right, help me do it. And then the second chapter is now giving the answers to that question. So let's focus the next time we meet
When are you going to send it to me?
with the essay.
Today's July 1st.
Okay, check this out. So the goal for the essay is not for me to write it, but to write it, rewrite it, distill it, and just, like harden it to get these points. Go through them line by line until it's, so I don't want to say 2 weeks.
Mm.
So let's say at the end of the first week of August.
Okay. August 2nd.
That's the end of the first week?
The first week.
August
The first
August
week of
7th.
August starts on the 29th of July. And then August 2nd is the first Friday of August.
Okay.
And the one after that would be August 9th.
Okay, so let's do August 9th.
August 9th.
Or August 10th. We'll just make it even. Yeah. August 10th, the essay, you cannot outwork a limited self-image.
Hey Siri, add to my calendar August 10th at 9 a.m. to check in with Evan about his essay on outworking a negative self-image.
Check in with Evan about his essay on outworking a.
It's there. So
Yeah. You could set another one 2 weeks from now too.
okay.
Like a check-in with Evan 2 weeks from now about that essay. That will be fine. But the day is due is the 10th of August.
Okay. It's there. I'm excited. We're gonna have some
Yeah.
feedback.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much. It's been such an honor, such a pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, man. Appreciate you having me on the podcast. I'm glad I was able to help. I appreciate you allowing me to showcase my talent and my passion for coaching. And I'm looking forward to more conversations, man.
Oh yeah. This isn't the last time we're gonna connect, that's for sure.
Yeah, most definitely.
Amazing. All right, Evan. Thanks so much, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Everybody.
Have a good day. Take care.